James Carter, a Chicago tycoon, clutches a wedding invite from his ex Sophia, who ditched him for a richer guy. Determined to steal the show, he meets Emily, a homeless woman with a sharp tongue and a mysterious past, and offers her cash to be his date. But Emily's no ordinary stranger. She's hiding a secret tied to Sophia's ruthless betrayal that destroyed her family. At the lavish Drake Hotel wedding, Emily dazzles the elite, sparking Sophia's suspicion and James's curiosity. As their plan unfolds, secrets unravel, exposing a web of lies and injustice. Will Emily reclaim her life and expose Sophia's crimes, or will their fight for justice cost them everything? Buckle up for a tale of revenge, redemption, and a bond that could change Chicago forever. Where will their journey end? Share your guesses below and dive into this gripping story. James Carter stood in his penthouse office, the Chicago skyline a distant blur beyond the glass. The wedding invitation in his hand felt like a slap. Sophia Bennett, his ex-fiancée, was getting married at the Drake Hotel, the city's pinnacle of luxury. She'd dumped him for a wealthier guy, and now this invite was her way of flaunting her victory. James's jaw tightened. "She thinks I'll show up looking pathetic," he muttered, crumpling the card. His best friend, Michael Hayes, leaned back in a chair, swirling a glass of whiskey. "You going, man? Or you gonna let her win?" James scoffed. "No way I'm walking in there alone." Michael grinned. "Then find a date. Someone who'll make her choke on that smug smile." The idea hit James like a spark. Not just any date, he needed someone who'd turn heads, someone who'd make Sophia question everything. That night, restless and still fuming, James wandered the Chicago Riverwalk. The cool air did little to calm him. That's when he saw her, a woman sitting on a bench, her clothes tattered, her hair a mess. But her eyes, sharp and unyielding, locked onto his the moment he approached. She wasn't begging or cowering, she just sat there, like she owned the space. "You need money?" James asked, hands in his pockets. The woman, Emily Davis, tilted her head, a smirk tugging at her lips. "What's this? You tossed me a few bucks to feel better about yourself?" Her voice was biting, and James blinked, caught off guard. Nobody talked to him like that. "I've got a better deal," he said, recovering. "Come with me to an event, play the part, and I'll pay you enough to change your life." Emily's smirk widened. "Change my life? That's a bold pitch." She stood, brushing off her worn jacket, her gaze never wavering. "What's the gig?" James held her stare. "A wedding. You dress up, smile, and act like you belong. That's it." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as if sizing him up. "I'll do it," she said, her tone almost daring. "But not for your money." James frowned. "Then why?" Emily's smile was cryptic. "Let's just say I'm curious about guys like you." Her words hung in the air, teasing a deeper motive. Before he could press, she turned, looking out at the river. "You ever wonder how someone ends up like this?" she asked, her voice softer now. "One day you're on top, the next you're nothing, all because someone with power decided you didn't matter." Her words hit James harder than he expected. He'd built his empire on deals and ambition, never pausing to think about those left behind. "Who did that to you?" he asked, his voice low. Emily glanced back, her eyes guarded. "Doesn't matter, not yet." She started walking, and James followed, intrigued despite himself. This woman wasn't just a prop for his plan, she was a puzzle he needed to solve. Back at his office the next day, James couldn't shake Emily's words. He paced, the invitation mocking him from his desk. Sophia's betrayal still stung. She'd left him when his company hit a rough patch, chasing a bigger paycheck. Now she was marrying some hedge fund hotshot, and James refused to let her see him as the loser she'd discarded. Emily was his ticket to flipping the script, but her defiance and cryptic hints gnawed at him. What was she hiding? He called Michael. "I found someone," James said, leaning back in his chair. "But she's different." Michael laughed. "Different how? She hot?" James rolled his eyes. "She's sharp. Talks like she's been in our world before." Michael's tone turned serious. "Be careful, man. You don't know her story." James hung up, staring at the city below. Michael was right, but something about Emily made him want to take the risk. He arranged to meet her at a diner near the Riverwalk. Emily showed up, her clothes still worn, but her posture regal, like she belonged anywhere she chose. "So, "What's the plan, rich guy?" she asked, sliding into the booth. James slid a contract across the table. "You come to the wedding, act like my date, and walk away with 50 grand. Emily raised an eyebrow, scanning the paper without touching it. 50 grand to play arm candy? You must really hate this ex." James leaned forward. "Let's just say I don't like losing." Emily's lips twitched. "Neither do I." She pushed the contract back. "I don't need your paper. I'll do it, but on my terms." James stared, torn between irritation and admiration. "What terms?" Emily leaned in, her voice low. "You don't ask about my past, not until I'm ready." Her intensity sent a chill through him. He nodded. "Deal." As they left the diner, Emily paused, her eyes distant. "You know, I had a family once," she said, almost to herself. "A home, a life. Then someone decided we were in their way and poof, gone." She looked at James, her vulnerability fleeting. That's what power does when it's unchecked. James felt a knot in his chest. He'd spent his life chasing that power, never questioning who it hurt. For the first time, he saw the world through Emily's eyes, a place where one wrong move could strip you bare. Driving back to his penthouse, James replayed her words. Emily wasn't just a means to an end. She was a challenge, a mirror reflecting truths he'd ignored. The wedding was days away, and he was already in deeper than he'd planned. What was Emily's real reason for agreeing, and why did he care so much about finding out? As he stared at the crumpled invitation, one thing was clear. This wasn't just about showing up Sophia anymore. It was about uncovering the woman who'd already turned his world upside down. James pulled his sleek black car up to a high-end salon on Magnificent Mile, Chicago's glittering hub of luxury. Emily sat beside him, her tattered jacket a stark contrast to the polished storefront. "This is where you get your glow up," James said, half expecting her to gawk at the opulence. But Emily just nodded, her expression unreadable. "Let's get it over with," she said, stepping out with the same defiance she'd shown on the Riverwalk. Inside, stylists swarmed her like artists around a canvas. They tamed her tangled hair into glossy waves, applied makeup that highlighted her sharp cheekbones, and slipped her into a tailored emerald gown that hugged her frame. James watched from a leather chair, waiting for a gasp or a smile, some sign she was dazzled. But when Emily emerged, she glanced in the mirror with calm familiarity, as if she'd worn such elegance before. "You look..." James started, then stopped, caught off guard by her transformation. "Like I belong?" Emily finished, her tone dry but her eyes piercing. "I've played this game before, James." Her words hung heavy, hinting at a past she hadn't shared. Before he could ask more, the head stylist ushered them out. "She's perfect," the woman gushed. Emily's lips twitched, but she said nothing, leaving James to wonder what lay beneath her cool exterior. That evening they arrived at the Drake Hotel, its grand ballroom alive with Chicago's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over designer gowns and tailored suits. As James and Emily stepped inside, heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd, speculating about the stunning woman on James Carter's arm. Emily didn't flinch. She lifted her chin, her poise effortless, as if she'd navigated rooms like this her whole life. James guided her through the throng, his plan to rattle Sophia already in motion. But Emily was no mere prop. When a group of businessmen approached, she shook hands with confidence, diving into a discussion about tech startups and market trends. "The AI sector's overheating," she said, her voice steady. "Too many players, not enough innovation." The men nodded, impressed, and James raised an eyebrow. She wasn't just holding her own. She was stealing the show. Then Sophia appeared, her white gown a vision of calculated perfection. Her smile was sharp, her eyes locking onto James before sliding to Emily. "James, you came," she said, her tone laced with surprise. "And who's this?" Her gaze raked over Emily, searching for flaws. "Emily," James said coolly. Emily extended a hand, her smile serene but edged with something dangerous. "A pleasure, Sophia. Your wedding's unforgettable." Sophia's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing as if trying to place her. "Have we met?" she asked, her voice probing. Emily tilted her head, her tone light but loaded. Maybe. The world of wealth is smaller than it seems. The words landed like a veiled jab, and James caught the flicker of unease in Sophia's face. She recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. Well, you certainly make an impression. Emily's smile didn't waver. I tried. As Sophia moved on, greeting other guests, Emily's gaze drifted across the ballroom. Her eyes softened, a fleeting sadness breaking through her composure. James followed her stare to a table of laughing socialites, their diamonds glinting. "What is it?" he asked quietly. Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. "This was my life once. Parties, power, people who swore they'd always have your back." She paused, her fingers tightening around her clutch, "until someone decided I was expendable." The rawness in her words hit James like a punch. He wanted to ask more, but her expression shut him out. A reminder of her terms. No questions about her past. Later, as they mingled, an older guest, a banking magnate named Harold Grayson, cornered Emily. "You don't quite fit here, do you?" he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Where'd Carter dig you up?" The crowd nearby hushed, sensing drama. James tensed, ready to step in. But Emily didn't blink. "I fit wherever I choose," she said, her voice calm but steel-edged. "Funny how you assume someone's worth based on their clothes. I've seen men like you lose everything overnight. Bet you'd look out of place on the streets too." Grayson's face reddened and the onlookers murmured, some nodding in reluctant respect. Emily sipped her champagne, unfazed, but James saw the flicker of pain in her eye. She wasn't just defending herself. She was speaking for everyone society had cast aside. As they moved to the dance floor, James leaned in. "You didn't have to take him on like that." Emily's lips curved, but her gaze was distant. "People like him need to be reminded the world isn't theirs to judge." She glanced at Sophia, now watching them from across the room, her expression a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "She's trying to figure me out," Emily murmured. "Good. Let her squirm." James twirled her, his mind racing. Emily wasn't just here to help him upstage Sophia. She had her own score to settle. Her poise, her cryptic jabs, her quiet grief. They all pointed to a past tied to this world, and maybe to Sophia herself. As the music swelled, he realized he'd underestimated her. Emily wasn't a pawn in his game. She was a queen playing her own. And whatever move she made next, James knew it would change everything. The wedding left James rattled. Emily's performance at the Drake Hotel had been flawless, but her cryptic remarks and quiet grief lingered in his mind. She wasn't just a stranger he'd hired, she was a mystery, and James didn't like mysteries he couldn't solve. Back in his penthouse, he poured a drink and called his private investigator, Tom Reed. "Dig into someone for me," he said, his voice low. "Emily Davis, I want everything." 2 days later, Tom called back. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Her real name's Emily Thompson, daughter of Robert Thompson, big-time construction tycoon. His company tanked after a scandal, fraud, embezzlement, the works. Word is, Sophia Bennett was behind it, pulling strings to sink him. Thompson died disgraced, and Emily ended up on the streets." James's grip tightened on the phone. Sophia, the woman he'd once loved, had destroyed Emily's family. "You sure?" he asked. "Ironclad," Tom replied. "She's been a ghost since." James hung up, his mind spinning. Emily's defiance, her ease in that ballroom, it all made sense now. She hadn't just taken his offer for money, she'd wanted a shot at Sophia. He needed to hear it from her. He drove to the hotel he'd booked for her, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. When Emily opened the door, her expression was wary but not surprised. "You don't knock, do you?" she said, stepping aside. "Who are you, Emily?" James asked, his voice sharp. "And don't give me that curious line again." Emily crossed her arms, her gaze steady. "You've been digging, haven't you?" She sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "Fine. I'm Emily Thompson. My father was Robert Thompson, and your ex-fiancé ruined him. She framed him for fraud, bled his company dry, and left us with nothing. That's why I'm here." James stared, the weight of her words sinking in. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily's eyes flashed. Because I don't trust people, James. Not after what I've been through, she paced, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. My dad was a good man. He built homes, schools, dreams. Sophia saw him as a stepping stone. She doctored deals, pinned her crimes on him, and walked away richer. He died broken, and Her voice cracked. I lost everything. James felt a pang in his chest. He'd been blind to Sophia's ruthlessness, too caught up in his own ambition to see her for what she was. I'm sorry, he said, the words feeling inadequate. Emily shook her head. I don't need sorry. I need her to pay. Her determination stirred something in him. Admiration, guilt, a need to make this right. Let me help, he said. Emily studied him, her guard still up. Who am I to judge? Because I was wrong about her too, James admitted. And because you don't deserve what she did. Emily's expression softened, but she didn't respond. Instead, she grabbed her jacket. Come with me, she said. You want to help? See what her world cost me. She led him to a gritty corner of Southside Chicago, where crumbling buildings and makeshift tents lined the streets. The air smelled of damp concrete and despair. Emily stopped at a vacant lot, her eyes distant. This is where I ended up, she said. No home, no money, just me and whatever I could carry. You know what it's like to beg for food and have people look through you, to be invisible because someone like Sophia decided you're worthless? James's throat tightened. He'd walked past places like this, never stopping to think about the lives behind the shadows. How did you survive? He asked. Emily's laugh was bitter. You learn fast. You hide your fear, scrounge for scraps, and pray no one takes the little you have. But the worst part? Knowing the system doesn't care. It protects people like Sophia, not people like me. Her words cut deep, exposing a truth James had never faced. He'd built his fortune on deals that favored the powerful, never questioning who got crushed. I didn't know, he said quietly. Emily met his gaze, her vulnerability raw. Most people don't. That's why I took your deal. Not for your money, James. For a chance to stand in her world again, to make her see me. James stepped closer, his voice earnest. You're not invisible, Emily. Not to me. She looked away, her eyes glistening. Don't say things you don't mean. But James meant it. For the first time, he saw her not as a tool for his revenge, but as a woman who'd fought through hell and still stood tall. I want to help you get justice, he said. Not for me, for you. Emily hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but this is my fight too. As they walked back to his car, the weight of her story settled over James. Sophia's betrayal had hurt him, but it had destroyed Emily. He didn't know how they'd take her down, but he knew he couldn't walk away. Emily wasn't just a partner in his plan. She was changing him, forcing him to see the world's inequities and his own role in them. And as they drove through the city, he realized he was already in too deep to turn back. Sophia didn't waste time. Days after the wedding, articles flooded the Chicago Tribune, painting Emily as a scheming opportunist. Headlines screamed, "From streets to society, the truth about James Carter's mystery date." The stories twisted Emily's past, calling her a fraud who'd conned her way into high society. Social media buzzed with cruel speculation, and Sophia's hand was all over it. James found Emily in her hotel room, staring at a laptop screen, her jaw tight. He's trying to bury me again, Emily said, her voice steady, but her eyes burning. James slammed his fist on the table. She won't get away with this. Emily met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. Then we hit back harder. They dove into action, pooling their resources. James tapped his network of contacts, digging into Sophia's financial dealings, while Emily scoured old records from her father's company. Late nights turned into early mornings as they uncovered a trail of falsified contracts, secret bank accounts, and incriminating emails. The smoking gun was a recorded conversation between Sophia and a shady accountant, detailing how she'd framed Robert Thompson for her own crimes. This is it, Emily said, holding up a USB drive, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and fury. She's done. James nodded, but his chest tightened. He'd wanted to humiliate Sophia, but seeing Emily's pain made this personal. We need the right stage, he said, somewhere public, where she can't hide. The opportunity came with a charity gala in Lincoln Park, a glittering event packed with Chicago's elite, investors, politicians, and media. Sophia would be there, basking in her untouchable status. James and Emily planned every detail, securing a slot for Emily to speak and coordinating with a trusted journalist to amplify the fallout. But the night before, Emily disappeared. James found her at a small cemetery outside the city, kneeling beside a weathered headstone. The name read Robert Thompson. Emily's voice was soft, barely audible. "I promised you, Dad. I'll clear your name." Tears streaked her face as she touched the stone, her fingers tracing the engraved letters. "You didn't deserve what she did." James stood a few paces back, his throat tight. He'd never seen her so raw, so vulnerable. In that moment, he realized he didn't just admire her strength. He loved her, fiercely and without reservation. He stayed silent, letting her grieve, but his presence was a quiet vow. He'd stand by her, no matter what came next. At the gala, Lincoln Park's lush gardens glowed under string lights, the crowd a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Sophia held court near the stage, her smile radiant as she charmed a group of donors. James and Emily arrived together, her in a sleek black dress that radiated power, him in a tailored suit, his expression unreadable. Whispers followed them, but Emily's chin stayed high. She was no longer the woman from the streets. She was Emily Thompson, ready to reclaim her truth. When the MC introduced her, Emily took the stage, her voice clear and commanding. "Tonight, we talk about charity," she began. "But true charity starts with justice." The crowd leaned in, curious. She held up the USB drive. "Sophia Bennett built her empire on lies. She framed my father, Robert Thompson, for crimes she committed. She stole our lives and left us with nothing." A screen behind her lit up, displaying documents and playing the damning recording. Gasps rippled through the audience as Sophia's voice echoed, cold and calculating. Sophia's face drained of color. "This is absurd," she shouted, but her voice wavered. Emily didn't flinch. "You thought you could erase us. But the truth doesn't stay buried." She turned to the crowd, her eyes blazing. "People like Sophia thrive because the system lets them. They exploit, they destroy, and they walk away. How many others have lost everything because of unchecked power? We need change, now." The room erupted in murmurs, some outraged, others nodding in agreement. Before Sophia could flee, 2 police officers stepped forward, badges gleaming. "Sophia Bennett, you're under arrest for financial fraud and market manipulation," one said, cuffing her wrists. Sophia's scream cut through the chaos. "James, do something!" He met her gaze, his voice ice cold. "You did this to yourself." As she was led away, the crowd parted, stunned. Cameras flashed, capturing the fall of Chicago's golden girl. Emily stepped off the stage, her hands trembling, but her head high. James caught her arm, his voice low. "You did it." She nodded, but her eyes were distant, as if the weight of her victory hadn't fully settled. Later, as they stood outside the gala, the night air cool against their skin, Emily spoke softly. "I thought this would feel better." James frowned. "You got justice." She shook her head. "Justice doesn't bring him back, but it's a start." Her words carried a quiet power, a reminder of the cost of her fight. James wanted to pull her close, to tell her how he felt, but he held back. This was her moment, and he wouldn't take it from her. Emily's speech had done more than expose Sophia, it had struck a chord. Whispers of reform circulated among the guests, a faint hope that her call for change might take root. But James knew the real battle was just beginning. Sophia's arrest was a victory, but the system that enabled her still stood. And as he looked at Emily, her face lit by the city's glow, he vowed to fight alongside her, not just for her past, but for a future where no one else would suffer as she had. With Sophia's arrest dominating headlines, Emily should have felt free. She'd cleared her father's name and toppled the woman who'd destroyed her family. But as she stood in her hotel room staring at the city's glow, a hollow ache lingered. Victory hadn't erased the years of loss. James knocked on her door, his presence steady but cautious. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes searching hers. Emily forced a smile. Thanks to you, I'm closer than ever. But her voice wavered, and James caught it. What's wrong? She sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. I've spent so long fighting, James. Now that it's over, I don't know who I am without the anger. Her honesty hit him hard. He wanted to hold her, to promise she'd find her way. But she wasn't ready. I need to rebuild myself, she said firmly. James nodded, though it stung. The man he'd been, arrogant, obsessed with winning, would have pushed her. But Emily had changed him. Her strength, her pain, had forced him to see beyond his own world. I'll respect that, he said, but I'm not going anywhere. Instead of chasing her romantically, he offered something else. Support for a dream she'd mentioned in passing. A nonprofit to help Chicago's homeless. Let me fund it, he said. Call it whatever you want, just let me help. Emily hesitated, then agreed. They named it Second Chance, a beacon for those society had discarded. She threw herself into the work, securing a small building in Uptown and hiring staff who'd once been homeless themselves. James was there every step, handling logistics and using his connections to draw donors. But he kept his distance emotionally, giving her the space she'd asked for. Still, Emily couldn't ignore the way his quiet presence grounded her, or how he listened when she spoke of her father's dreams. One night, Emily walked alone along the Chicago Riverwalk, the place where James had found her. The air was crisp, the city's hum of familiar comfort. She was lost in thought when a man stepped from the shadows, his face half hidden by a hood. You should have stayed quiet, he growled, grabbing her arm. Emily froze, recognizing him as one of Sophia's old business allies. She's gone, but I'm not, he hissed, his grip tightening. Before panic could take hold, James appeared, his voice sharp. Let her go, now. The man sneered, but released her when James stepped closer, his stance unyielding. Security arrived, dragging the thug away, but Emily's heart still raced. James pulled her close, his hands gentle but firm. You're safe, he murmured. She leaned into him, her defenses crumbling. Why are you always there? She whispered, her voice breaking. Because you're not alone anymore, he said simply. In that moment, Emily saw him not as the tycoon who'd hired her, but as a partner who'd fought for her without asking for anything in return. She pulled back, her eyes glistening. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. James smiled softly. We'll figure it out together. The next week, Second Chance hosted its first community night. The modest center buzzed with people, men and women who'd lost homes, jobs, hope. Emily stood before them, her voice steady but warm. I was you, she said, her eyes sweeping the room. I had a family, a life, until it was taken. But I'm here to tell you, you can rise again. You're not invisible. Her words hung in the air, met with nods and quiet tears. A woman in the back raised her hand, her voice shaky. How do you keep going when no one cares? Emily's throat tightened. You find one person who does, and you build from there. Her gaze flicked to James, who was serving coffee in the corner, his sleeves rolled up, a quiet smile on his face. He'd heard every word, and the pride in his eyes made her heart ache. She realized then that he wasn't just supporting her mission, he was part of it, part of her. As the night wound down, Emily spoke with a man named Marcus, who'd lost his job after a corporate merger. They didn't even look at us, he said bitterly. Just numbers on a spreadsheet. Emily nodded, her own memories surfacing. That's what Second Chance is for, she said. To remind the world you're more than that. Marcus wiped his eyes, and Emily felt a spark of purpose. This was her healing, not just for herself, but for others society had abandoned. Later, as they cleaned up, James approached. You were incredible tonight, he said. Emily smiled, a real one this time. I couldn't have done it without you. He shook his head. This is all you, Emily. But she knew better. James had changed, from a man chasing revenge to one who saw the world's inequities and wanted to fix them. And as they locked up the center, side by side, Emily felt something shift. And she wasn't ready to name it, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what it could mean. Second Chance grew from a small shelter into a lifeline for Chicago's forgotten. Emily poured her heart into it, expanding programs for job training, housing, and counseling. She didn't want to reclaim her old life in the city's elite circles. She wanted to rewrite the rules for those society had left behind. James, once defined by penthouses and power plays, became her partner in this mission. He sold his luxury cars, redirected his wealth to the nonprofit, and traded boardroom battles for late nights planning community outreach. For the first time, he felt his life had purpose beyond himself. Their bond deepened, not through grand gestures, but through shared commitment. Emily no longer flinched when James stood close, and he no longer pushed for more than she could give. They were partners, their connection rooted in mutual respect and a shared vision. Yet, as Second Chance thrived, Emily wrestled with a quiet fear. Could she balance her mission with the feelings she could no longer deny? James, patient as ever, didn't press her. He showed up day after day, proving his love through actions, not words. Their biggest moment came at a community event in Millennium Park, where Chicago's diverse faces, families, workers, activists, gathered under a summer sky. The stage was simple, flanked by banners for Second Chance. Emily stepped up to the microphone, her navy dress understated but her presence commanding. "This city is more than its skyscrapers," she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. "It's the people who fight to survive, who rise after they've been knocked down. Second chances for them. For us." She paused, her eyes finding James in the front row. "Today we're launching a scholarship fund for anyone who's faced homelessness and dreams of a new start. Education, training, a chance to rebuild. That's what we're giving." The crowd erupted in applause, and James clapped hardest, his chest tight with pride. Emily wasn't just changing lives. She was reshaping the city's heart. As she spoke, Emily spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Lily, a woman she'd met during her days on the streets. Back then, they'd shared scraps of food and stories of loss, huddling against Chicago's bitter winds. Now, Lily stood tall, her hair neat, a barista's apron peeking from her bag. When Emily stepped off the stage, Lily rushed forward, tears streaming. "I got a job, Emily," she choked out, pulling her into a hug. "Your program, it saved me." Emily held her tight, her own eyes welling. "You saved yourself, Lily. I just gave you a hand." They laughed through their tears, and James watched, a lump in his throat. He'd built empires, closed million-dollar deals, but this raw human connection was the greatest success he'd ever witnessed. Lily's smile, Emily's strength, were proof that their work mattered. Later, as the event wound down, James and Emily walked through the park, the city's hum fading behind them. "You were incredible up there," he said, his voice soft. Emily smiled, her guard lower than ever. "We did this together." She stopped, turning to face him. "I was scared, scared that letting you in would mean losing myself again." James met her gaze, his heart pounding. "And now?" Emily took a deep breath, her voice steady. "Now, I know you're not here to take anything from me. You're here to build something with me." She reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. It wasn't a promise of romance, but of partnership, of a shared path. James squeezed her hand, his smile quiet but radiant. "That's enough for me." Their work exposed the city's harsh truths. Countless people, like Lily, had stable lives until layoffs, evictions, or betrayals stripped them bare. Second Chance's data showed that over half its clients had once held steady jobs, debunking the myth that homelessness was a personal failing. Emily shared these stories in public forums, challenging Chicago's leaders to act. "Change doesn't come from sympathy," she said at one event. "It comes when people with power, like you, like me, choose to lift others up." James took her words to heart. He lobbied for policy reforms, using his influence to push for affordable housing and job programs. The man who'd once chased wealth now fought for equity, inspired by Emily's fire. Their partnership became a symbol of what was possible when privilege met purpose. At every step, they faced resistance, bureaucracy, skeptics, remnants of Sophia's network, but they pressed on, fueled by the faces they'd helped. As they left Millennium Park hand in hand, Emily looked at James. "We're just getting started, aren't we?" He nodded, his eyes bright. "Yeah, and we're not stopping." Their love wasn't a fairy tale romance. It was a commitment to each other and to a cause bigger than themselves. Chicago's skyline loomed ahead, a reminder of the work still to do. But for the first time, Emily felt whole, and James felt human. Together, they were rewriting the city's story, one second chance at a time.